Now, you will have seen, perhaps on my website or on the way in, that I've just finished making a series of documentaries about the Madeleine McCann case. Now, you might think, well, why is Rich Planet producing such documentaries? This is not the sort of issue that Rich Planet would normally cover. It's not of global significance, which are issues that I would normally cover. Well, it has become of global significance, and here's the reason why. Is there anyone in this room who does not know who that little girl is? Anyone? You would have had to have been on Mars for the last 7 years not to know who that is. In fact, if you watch part 2 of my talk, if you have been on Mars, you might know who that little girl is. The other reason why this is an important case and why I have decided to cover it is because the mainstream media have lied and have misled and have covered up and have not given the public the true facts on the Madeleine McCann case. There's been more headlines about this case than anything else in the last 7 years, and the vast majority of the British public haven't got a clue about the facts of the case. It's an establishment-led cover-up. And that's why I'm attracted to this case, because people are not interested in 9/11. People in this room may well be, or in the fake London bombings, or in UFOs. They're not interested. Everyone has been forced to be interested in this issue. I was doing a talk in London the night before last, and there were some doors open, and there were people in the foyer eavesdropping on the talk because they overheard the name Madeleine McCann. So this is a way of bringing more people into the truth movement, and it is a way of exposing a mainstream media which is there purely for perception management propaganda. That's what mainstream media is. It's not about telling the truth. It's a tool of perception management. Now, I wasn't interested in the Madeleine McCann case up until the latter part of 2011, and I thought to myself, well, why isn't this story going away? And I did what I do with all stories. I ignored everything that I'd read in the mainstream media, and then I seeked out independent sources. One of the sources that I used at that time was this website, mccannfiles.com. I would recommend it to anyone. It's got a vast amount of information on there. You could probably spend 3 weeks on that website and still not read every word of it. It's got all of every news report that's ever been written. It's got the police files, video interviews, and it's a very good resource. So I went on that website and on various other websites. I spent several weeks researching it, and I came to my own opinion based on the evidence as to what I think happened in the Madeleine McCann case. Now, I did raise the issue in 2012 at a couple of talks. One I did in Edinburgh and one in Kilmarnock, and there were sections of the audience I could sense were not comfortable about me talking about it, and they were almost walking out of the room. So I dropped it from my tour. I've done a lot more research since then, and I've been out to Praia de Luz. I went out there earlier this year in March. I spent 5 days there. This is a landmark which is on top of one of the cliffs there, and it overlooks the main bay in Praia de Luz. And the McCanns, when they were there, when they went jogging, they would jog to that landmark and back to their apartment. Now, I have been to and filmed places in Praia de Luz that the mainstream media have not filmed. They have not told you about. All right? There are elements of this story which have not appeared at all in mainstream media that everyone should be aware of. All right, now just a breakdown of the films. There's over 4 hours of documentary films here. This is the most detailed forensic documentary ever produced about the Madeleine McCann case. The first documentary is just under an hour long, and it's entitled The Initial Storm, and it goes into the events of that first night when Madeleine was reported missing. So it goes into all of the circumstantial evidence, all of the witness statements, all of the media statements, all of the contradictions. The second film is entitled Dogs Don't Lie, and it goes into detail on the police sniffer dogs, British police sniffer dogs, which were sent out to search the McCann's apartment in 2007. The third film is called Private Investigations, and it covers all of the attempts to search for Madeleine using supposed private investigation agencies. And if you watch the film, you will realise that those investigation agencies were all bogus. All 3 of them were in different ways bogus. I'll come on to that. The fourth film is entitled Government Agents, and it goes into all of the different government agencies that have been helping the McCanns, because this is the cover-up which goes right at the top. Now, I'm going to show you one small clip from the film, which concerns Martin Grime, who was one of the world's top police sniffer dog experts. He took 2 dogs out there, one dog which is trained to bark or alert when it smells the scent of human cadaver, the smell or past presence of a human corpse, right? And it will only bark when it smells that scent. The other dog is trained to bark when it smells human blood. And they were used on separate days to search the McCann's apartment. They also searched all of the other apartments in that block, and they didn't make any alerts on those other apartments. So here's this is just a very short clip from the film, and as I say, it's over 4 hours of other circumstantial evidences. In early August 2007, he brought his 2 dogs to Portugal. One of them, Eddie, was trained to alert to the odour of human corpses, and the other, Keela, to blood. As we shall see in detail, Martin Grime told Portuguese police officers that Eddie had detected the scent of death in no fewer than 11 locations associated with the McCanns, while Keela also detected the scent of blood in 3 of those very same locations. The dogs were deployed on different days, so they alerted to these locations independently of each other.
What I've first noticed is that as soon as I came in, that the dog's very excited, and as a handler I can pick up his body language, etc. It would appear to me that as soon as he's come in the house, he's picked up a scent that he recognises. If there isn't a scent source in here, i.e. a physical article where the scent is emitting from, any scent residue will collect in a particular place due to the air movement of the flat, or the apartment. And what I would say in this case is that there's enough scent in that area there for him to give me a bark indication. But the source may not be in that cupboard. The source may well be in this room somewhere else, but the air is actually pushing it into that corner. But is a strong indication, and I would say it's positive for the things that he's trained to find. And he's decided, yes, that's what I'm looking for, and that's when he's given me the bark indication. What we should understand with this dog is that he only barks when he finds something. He won't bark at any other time. The only times I've ever known him bark since I got him as a small puppy was A, for his dinner, and that's just excitement, and that's one of the training methods we use to teach him to bark when we wanted him to, and when he actually finds something. He won't bark at other dogs, he won't bark at strangers, he won't bark when somebody knocks on the door or anything like that. So again, I would say that's a positive indication. Okay.
Let there be no doubt about what Martin Grime said his dogs were alerted to. He said, in effect, that his dogs were alerting to the past presence of a human corpse in those 11 locations. As we shall see in a moment, no other corpses had been present in those 11 locations. Therefore, if a corpse really had been in contact with those 11 locations, it could only have been that of Madeleine McCann. By July, 2 months into the investigations into Madeleine's disappearance, the team of detectives, led by Dr. Gonçalo Amaral, had clearly formed the view that the McCanns and their friends were not telling the truth, and were hiding something. They and top British police actively worked on the theory that Madeleine had in fact died in the McCanns' holiday apartment, and that the McCanns, perhaps with the help of others, had hidden or disposed of her body.
Okay, so of those 11 locations in Martin Grime's report, 9 of those locations appeared in the Portuguese Attorney General's report, and I'm going to go through them. So we had cadaver alerted to in the bedroom, McCann's bedroom, cadaver and blood behind the settee in the living room, cadaver in an area on the patio, cadaver alerted to on the soft toy Cuddle Cat, Madeleine's toy, cadaver on 2 items of Kate McCann's clothing alerted, and cadaver alerted to on the outside of the McCann's hire car, cadaver and blood alerted to on the key of that vehicle, blood alerted to in the boot of their hire car, and blood alerted to on the inside of the door of the hire car. This is just a small piece of the evidence in this documentary. Now, these are police photographs. This is the living room where the settee was pulled off the wall, where blood and cadaver were alerted to. These are 4 points where the police were actually able to extract blood and body fluids from the wall. Because of those 11 locations, only 2 locations were they actually able to recover physical evidence from and do DNA testing on there. Right? The DNA tests were done and revealed that it was 15 out of 19 indication that the blood belonged to Madeleine McCann. That's a scientific term, and what it means is that the chances of the blood not belonging to Madeleine were 1 million to 1. 1 million to 1. And it was found, as I say, on these points on the wall behind the settee in the McCann's apartment, and also in the boot of the hire car. It's another police photograph. Now, I'm going to state my beliefs on this case. It's still legal in this country to state your beliefs without being sued, because the McCanns have sued many people for libel. These are my beliefs, but these beliefs are based on the evidence. My belief is that Madeleine McCann died in April or May 2007. Now, she was reported missing on the 3rd of May 2007, but I've spoken to some researchers who've been digging in this case right from the word go, and many of them believe that she died at least 3 days before she was reported missing. That's why I've said April or May 2007. I believe Madeleine McCann's corpse was situated in the McCann's holiday apartment for a period of time. I believe that Madeleine McCann's corpse was transported in the McCann's Renault Scenic hire car some weeks after she died. I believe there has been a high-level cover-up about what really happened. All the evidence for these beliefs are in these films, over 4 hours of it. I believe there is a reason for the high-level cover-up which goes further than most people have contemplated. Now, I'm not even prepared to state my belief on what that reason is in this room in public. But I believe that there is a reason why the government have assisted in covering up this case, or the true information about it. I believe the story represents the best opportunity to expose mainstream media as nothing more than perception management propagandists. And that's really the reason why I've made these documentaries. Now, just a word, because someone on the internet said, Richard Hall, he's a money-making crackpot. That's why he's made these DVDs. They're for sale here for £15 if you want to buy all 4 films. On the internet, they're £20. But I'm happy for people to take them, make 1,000 copies and hand them out in the street. And in a few weeks' time, I will be releasing it on the internet to watch free of charge. So I may sell between 100 and 200 copies of this film on this tour to recover my costs so that I can make more documentaries, that kind of thing. But I'm not wanting to get rich in making these films. Anyone can copy them and give them to whoever they want. Okay. So you might ask yourself, what's all this new investigation, or the investigation which was launched in 2011, approved by David Cameron, Scotland Yard, being told to investigate it? Well, in my opinion, this is just a massive psychological operation to try and convince the public that Madeleine was abducted. That's all this is, nothing more than that. They're fooling the public on it, in my opinion. Now, in the second 2 films, I make use of this chart, which explains how the cover-up has been operating over the last 7 years. Now, the central person in all this has been someone called Clarence Mitchell. Now, Clarence Mitchell was Tony Blair's senior spin doctor. He was in charge of the media monitoring unit under the Blair government, in charge of 40 staff, and he is quoted as saying that his job was to control what comes out in the news. So he's the government's top media handling person, connected to the Murdoch empire as well. Now, he was appointed by the Cabinet Office, or the Prime Minister, just 3 days after Madeleine had been reported missing. Why would they need to do that? Why would they need to send their top media relations person in order to give the McCanns protection from the media? Now, Clarence Mitchell has been overseeing what I've termed the McCann team. because the McCanns started a limited company which consisted of themselves and a member of their family and various other people, all who were named in the documentaries. Now that team has been using at least 3 bogus private investigation agencies, and I'm quite confident to stand here and say that they are bogus, because at least 3 people have served 4-year prison sentences who've been involved in the private investigations concerning the McCanns, and all the evidence is in my films as to why these agencies were complete rogue agencies, and the work that they were doing was to produce bogus stories. So Madeleine is at the bottom of a reservoir. Madeleine was abducted and is in Morocco. Madeleine was taken by someone who looks like Victoria Beckham. Madeleine is in the United States. Madeleine is being held in the lawless hills of Praia da Luz. All these stories for which there is not a shred of evidence, all lies, total lies that you've read in mainstream newspapers, were produced, or most of them, by these rogue agencies, all of whom are exposed in these films. Now, you see here we've got intelligence agencies whose hands have been all over this case protecting the McCanns. The chap who I just showed you a video clip of, Martin Grime, he was intercepted at Faro Airport when he came back to the UK with his dogs by MI5. The McCann team have been employing somebody called Gary Hagland. Gary Hagland is an expert in money laundering. Why do you need an expert in money laundering to find a little girl? But Gary Hagland also has connections in MI6. We've got the fact that the Cabinet Office lent on the Portuguese authorities and tried to get them to release, or the Portuguese police to release, statements given by Jane Tanner. Jane Tanner was a friend of the McCanns, and she said that she'd seen somebody carrying a child away from the McCanns' apartment on that night. But the Portuguese police thought that she lied about that in order to protect the McCanns, so they did not want to release that statement. But Gordon Brown is ringing them up, trying to get them to release that statement. Now, when you bear in mind the facts of the case and the fact that there is at the very least a shadow over it, why would a Prime Minister get involved in what is essentially a personal tragedy issue and sully their reputation? This makes no sense whatsoever. It's because Gordon Brown was a puppet of the intelligence agencies. And every Prime Minister has had a hand in the Madeleine McCann case. Tony Blair's wife, Sherry Blair, 3 or 4 days after Madeleine was reported missing, rang Kate McCann up and was giving her reassurance. Gordon Brown was ringing Jerry McCann several times, and David Cameron was involved in or approved this new investigation that Scotland Yard have been running over the last 3 years, costing over £7 million. So, as I say, it's a personal tragedy story, and it's a story or a case which has been investigated by the Portuguese police. So a British Prime Minister should have nothing to do with it. And when you look at all the other evidence of the involvement of the intelligence agencies, you realise that these guys have been told to get their fingers into this case. They're puppets of the intelligence agencies. Now, as I say, it's 15 quid if you want to have a look at it, but it will be online free of charge in a couple of weeks' time. And I'm making this film to expose, because I want to get millions of people watching this film and make people realise that the media are they're there not to tell the truth. They're there for perception management purposes.